topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert Show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from experts on such topics as legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to our experts in community association law, estate planning law, tax relief, Medicare, public insurance adjusters, neuropathy treatment, business brokers, and personal injury law, along with many other topics. Now here's your host for the last 17 years, Steve O.
In California and surrounding states, welcome to another Ask the Experts TV show, where we always bring you the finest experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. We want to also welcome our TikTok audience. And I bring that up, I don't know, we just started a couple months ago. This might be our expert, Robert Crown's first show with us on TikTok, but I want to just share something that I think is exciting. We're just starting the show right now, and this is amazing. Now, we've been promoting it for the last 2 days, but our show has already got over 1,000 likes, and we're just starting. That's pretty amazing. Let me welcome you, one of the finest public adjusters in the country, Robert Crown of Crown Adjusting LLC. My buddy.
Hey, nice to see you, Stephen. It's nice to be here, everybody.
I love the background. I love the background. And you know, we're going to have to do this for the next show, is put a big phone number on there too, because that's probably one of the biggest questions we get. Robert,
well, I see one.
Let me tell you something. You started, when we were talking off the air, you said something so important about leaving certain things on. I just want to get that out in the beginning of the show.
Well, I tell people that, most people don't understand what a public adjuster does. And I frequently will tell people, I hope you never meet me professionally, but the only way to never have to deal with an insurance claim is to be perfectly careful about just anything and everything that you do that might create a problem that you're not even aware of, like leaving a faucet on or leaving the stove on or not being aware of a pipe leak and things that you buy insurance for. It's terrible when you have to file a claim and then find out after it's all said and done that your insurance company doesn't even want to honor it or value the loss properly.
Robert, so we started promoting your show 2 days ago. You're already going to know this, the number one question that people are asking is, I've heard of a public adjuster, but I don't really know what it means, and I've been too afraid to sound dumb and ask.
Well, it's a great question. I mean, most people know that when they have to call an insurance adjuster, it's to deal with a loss or to report it and to make sure that if they're filing a claim, it's handled properly. And for most people that don't know, the difference between a public adjuster and an insurance adjuster is a public adjuster is hired by the individual consumer, the person filing the claim. And when you stop to think about it, it kind of makes sense that if the insurance company has someone that they call to come out and to look at the damage, they're not going to pay you 1 penny more than they have to. It would only make sense that a layperson or a homeowner have someone to represent their interests to make sure that the insurance company treats them right. And that's essentially what a public adjuster does. We're licensed.
In what areas does a public adjuster handle? People know about flooding, but there's so many other areas too.
Well, PAs, I would say I get phone calls routinely about handling car claims. And there are many public adjusters that will handle a car claim, but most public adjusters handle property insurance and property damage. So a water leak, a fire, vandalism, a theft, a small business that had something happen, or like a neighbor, or their next door neighbor had a fire and there's smoke damage to their business operation and they can't operate. Everybody has to look to their coverage, their own insurance coverage, to see and to make sure that their insurance company responds to the claim and that they're doing what they're supposed to do to help the consumer recover.
You know, people also want to know, Robert, and every claim is different, but they want to have an idea of how you charge.
Well, most public adjusters work on a percentage. There are some that work on an hourly, but typically we work on a percentage. And this is something that is, common to most public adjusters around the country. When they want to know what the fee is, I don't like to quote fees on the phone. I want to see what I'm dealing with, whether the claim is a $100,000 water damage claim or a $500,000 fire damage claim. To know how to circumnavigate and to prepare the claim has everything to do with the fee that an individual PA is going to charge. And so it's also important for people to understand the mechanics of what we do, because it's a great misconception as to how we earn our fee. Well, we earn our fee by putting the claim together and make sure the insurance company doesn't intentionally or unintentionally make mistakes that cause the poor consumer to be in a dilemma when the insurance company adjuster comes back with an estimate for $35,000 when it's more like a $200,000 loss. Then they're definitely, kind of with their backs against the wall, and they find out about it when they go to hire somebody, and all the estimates they're getting are twice as high as the insurance company's estimate. The only mistake they make is maybe the mistake of waiting too long to choose to hire a PA.
This is from Mac. This is from our TikTok. Wants to know, he said, I'm so glad there's a show like this out there. I just found your show. I'm wondering, I did settle 2 months ago. Can you reopen a claim?
Yes, you can. It depends on how the claim was prepared and whether or not the insurance company is going to quite willingly choose to revisit the calculation, only to find out that the property owner settled prematurely. But in the course of any claim, people ask me, well, how long will they leave it open? Well, there is a statute of limitations for filing it and getting it resolved. But if it's a claim where all of the damage was not discoverable, or there were additional things that should have been included that weren't, you notify your insurance company immediately and say, I want to file a supplement because I'm not convinced that there were things that were left out. But you need to know a little bit about the damage. And if the insurance company's hanging their hat on a consulting contractor that they brought out who says that their estimate was, defendable or defensible, you're going to have to go back to that insurance company and say what it is about the settlement that omits new damage that you discovered. I mean, you don't just pull a number out of a hat. It's got to be based on something reality-based.
Robert, how long have you been in business for?
Well, Crown Adjusting's been in business since 2014, but I've been a public adjuster since 1985.
Okay, I'm going to tell you why I asked that. So we have public adjuster shows all over the country that we do. So I'm always doing a lot of due diligence. And I got to tell you, for you being in business this long shows how successful your company's been. I cannot tell you how many adjusters I see out there. They're up on the internet, and then 3 months later, they're no longer even around anymore.
our business is peculiar. We are likened to ambulance chasers and some other not so flattering terms like scavengers, because it's dark humor. Many PAs show up when someone has already suffered a loss. And I know what that's like. It's not something most public adjusters love doing, because you are introducing yourself to someone at the most inopportune time. They're busy getting their lives together, or they're doing cleanup, or they've been up all night. I mean, I know what it's like to be approached by, 10 different strangers, all with a business card, all with a different service, all trying to convince you that you need them. And I think when you're dealing with a calamity like a water damage claim or a fire, you are going to need help. But people should be well informed about the decisions they make, so they're not, running blindly or being persuaded by a very slick, for lack of a better word, salesman that makes a convincing case, but they're still not sure. I like to tell people that they always will have the opportunity to talk to different people, and that they should be willing to learn and listen about what public adjusters do. And maybe the person they're talking to makes a convincing case that they hire the public adjuster right away. In most states, there's a cooling off period that guarantees the consumer at least 72 hours to maybe see what that public adjuster is going to do, and to make sure they're comfortable. I don't want to get hired only to find out a day or two later that they weren't ready. I much prefer that people be ready, and I will guide them while they're busy making their decision.
Robert, when a potential client first comes to you, do you have a pretty good idea if you can help them or not?
Yes, I do. By knowing some of the issues that they're going to have to deal with, and frankly, and to be right up front about it, hiring a public adjuster on a percentage on a claim that might not be more than $20,000 or $30,000, to make that a viable candidate, they still need the help, but most PAs are looking for bigger fish. A claim that's a couple $100,000, where the value add and the amount of time that it will take to put it together and settle it will generate enough of a fee to make it a viable assignment, because public adjusters come in all shapes and sizes. Some companies employ 100 people, and they have, a hierarchy of skilled staff that they would put on a claim. And some larger companies won't even get involved in a claim that's under $100,000, because they want to make sure they have a fee that is equivalent to $50,000 to $75,000 before they take on the business. I think that's, even if that's a prudent business decision, approaching people that really need the help, and all you're talking about with them is what your fee should be, that's, in my opinion, a huge turnoff. And I've been doing this long enough to know that's not how I want to market crown adjusting.
Here's a great question. I'm really enjoying your show. Can your expert tell me the difference in his company and other adjusters out there?
Well, that's pretty easy from my point of view. Most of the claims that I take on, I'm personally involved in from beginning to end. Now, I employ consultants to help me do what I do, but my bandwidth is really focused on the individual customer. So I won't be passing the baton to somebody else. I may have a building consultant and a contractor involved. I may have an inventory person alongside me to help reconstruct the personal property inventory like I do on a half a dozen claims right now. And I worked with a select number of contractors and consultants who are also out there generating their own business, doing what they do for consumers. So it's a multidisciplinary skill set. Construction, knowledge of insurance claims. All public adjusters throughout the United States need to be licensed. I think licensing is alive and well in about 48 of the 50 states. And it involves continuing education. I'm certainly part of my trade association and have been for quite some time. We're different. We're different because we're a small company.
This is from San Diego, and we've talked about this, but I just want Robert to reiterate on it. They want to know, do you handle businesses?
We do, yes. I'm handling two restaurants right now, one in San Francisco, another in Hayward, California. Yes, and some of those businesses they occupy the building as a tenant, and then there are some business owners that actually own the building and they have a business operation going on in that particular building. So it's really dependent on each individual consumer, their insurance company, and the variables that go into claim preparation. Like if you're talking about a business, it may very well be that the business owner spent $50,000 outfitting their building, and they're operating there. How are the leasehold improvements going to be valued if they can't operate there anymore? Are they going to be making claim for them under their business policy, or will the landlord be responsible for that because those fixtures and appliances are installed permanently, and the landlord's coverage, the landlord's insurance is going to respond to it? So you have to look at those variables as well.
I want to know also, what is the average time it takes to settle a case? I realize that every case is different, but just an average.
Now, if you asked me this question 5 to 10 years ago, I probably would be more comfortable answering it. Claims in California, in my opinion, have gotten exponentially harder to resolve in a short period of time. Every so often you get lucky. A friend of mine once said about having had something happen that was favorable, that sometimes even the blind squirrel gets lucky and finds the nut. I think for our profession, for public adjusters, we all, when we do get together and talk shop, we're oftentimes talking about how much more complicated claims have become because insurance company will find a way to delay payment as long as possible, probably because they're making money on the money they get to save.
Right. Yeah, it's funny because I was going to ask you, do you ever get discouraged at times? Because somebody was asking, what's a typical day for a public adjuster?
Yeah, you get up, you deal with your next client or the claim you're working on. You go to bed knowing that it's not resolved. And your client is a partner with you in the evolution of the claim. I think what maybe, you asked me what makes me different. I, along with a lot of colleagues that work for other companies and the ones that are devoted to the client, are really putting themselves in their client's shoes and experiencing the roller coaster ride that they're in for, knowing in anticipation of what comes next. What are your client's expectations? And the name of the game is keeping them abreast of where you're at in the process, so they don't think, well, I hired a public adjuster and I haven't heard from them in 3 months. That's really important that they have a good line of communication with the person they're working with.
Are you surprised that people have not really read over their policy and don't really know what's in it?
It's when you put it in those terms, you think that that you would assume that maybe people do. Actually, I think all of us, especially in the multitude of disciplines and trades and expertise, people are told to read their policy. And certainly this show is an opportunity for people to get better educated about the insurance claim process itself, or to be motivated to look at their policy again, just to make sure they're insuring their property in such a manner that they would even have enough insurance, God forbid they had a loss.
What about, I'm seeing people asking about mold and mildew. There's a gentleman here saying, I'm looking at my policy to see if I'm covered there. I can't find it. Do you know if most policies cover mold and mildew?
Well, mold and mildew are almost one and the same, but mold is the bacterial growth that occurs when an absorbent material is left wet for a lengthy period of time. Most mold is covered, but it's limited to a dollar amount in the policy. The standard exclusion is anything over $5,000 they will not cover.
Wow.
There are many claims that are not covered claims too. Water claims are very challenging and problematic because everything that would leak water, both leak and mold, are four-letter words. It's the most common claim, a water claim, and it's the most complex claim because it could be denied wholly or in part. You have a broken line under the sink, and it takes 2 to 3 days before you realize it's leaking. And now you're dealing with water that's under a hardwood floor, and the floor is starting to cup. You call the insurance company. You have to find out, well, what caused that water leak? Was it sudden accidental breakage, or was it a slow leak over time? A slow leak over time may be excluded from coverage because they would be denying it for wear and tear. So it's very important that you know what the cause is, and to keep any record of when you first became aware of the leak, that you found out where it originated from and you stopped it. Even in the absence of knowing how you're insured, I will tell most people over the phone, because they don't know if they're going to file a claim or not. Whatever you do, get the place dried out, make sure it's not leaking, and then we could talk about what you should do next.
Robert, are you finding that there's, I know that California, a lot of insurance companies pulled out. Are you seeing some of them coming back now?
Yes, they are. And new, there's a such thing as an admitted carrier and unadmitted. There are companies coming in from out of state that are just, getting acquainted with California insurance regulations, and they are allowed to operate. But the market is really based on supply and demand, and so there are companies that are coming in to fill that gap. There are also companies that are continuing to give people notification that they're no longer writing new policies in California, especially if you're people that are in a wildfire area. Things have changed over time, in part because California has experienced so many disasters, but now you're hearing about conditions in other parts of the country too.
This is from Merrill. She's in Albuquerque, New Mexico. She said, I looked up your company. You have a great website. I see you're out of California. How do you help somebody in Albuquerque?
Well, we have I personally don't have I'm not licensed in New Mexico, but there are public adjusters operating in most states around the country and in Canada as well. If you were to go to the National Association of Public Insurance Adjusters, NAPIA, they have an informational website. You would find out about licensed public adjusters in your state, and those that are a member of NAPIA would be probably the public adjuster that I would recommend, because that national association regulates its own participants, its own members. So I'm active in NAPIA, so I'm aware of most of the people that operate throughout the country, and I attend the trade association meetings. There's an annual meeting and a semi-annual meeting, and we come in from all over the country for continuing education credits and to support each other professionally.
We're about halfway through the show, and people are asking for your contact information. Let's give it to them right now for the ones who aren't watching.
I don't know if people see the name of the company and my phone number there, but the number is 415-999-5519, and it's crownadjusting.com. The LLC is left off my website, but you can find me just by Googling crownadjusting.com. And you can Google public adjusters in the state that you're in.
Okay. We got so many different platforms where all they get is the audio, especially TikTok is audio only, iHeart. So we like to give that phone number. And if you're on YouTube, you can watch it scrolling through. And we're going to give it to you at the end of the show also. Robert, what are things people should look for in their policy to make sure they have?
If it's a homeowner policy, they're going to have a couple of different components. They're going to have a coverage A for the dwelling. They might have a coverage B for personal property, and a coverage C for loss of use or additional living expenses, or it may be 4 different categories, A, B, C, D. Coverage A is building. Coverage B is other structures like a detached garage, and they will have coverage C, personal property, and coverage D, loss of use and or additional living expense. What you really want to make sure is that the amount of coverage you have might be sufficient. God forbid you had a catastrophic loss. The only way to know that is to know a little bit about how people insure property in their state. In California, most people may or may not know this, but I would say 90% of the people that carry homeowners insurance in California are slightly to moderately underinsured, because the cost of construction and construction repair in California have gone up so dramatically. The underwriting, what people insure for and what the agents are selling, cannot keep up with it. So that's the first thing. And even for someone that's in the business like me and is pretty astute with regard to knowing what the cost of reconstruction repair are, you could be insuring your house for $1 million to $2 million, and the insurance company, just because you have that amount of coverage doesn't mean the insurance company is going to pay it. But you certainly would want it, and God forbid you had a catastrophic loss, you would want to make sure that you insured most of the risk, so you didn't find out that you didn't have enough money to even repair your house. And I help people like that too, but the ideal candidate for a public adjuster is someone that has more, perhaps a little more insurance than they need, so that the PA can come in and earn their fee, because it's money that they would not get had they not elected to hire a professional that does this day in and day out.
Can you give us, I'm going to use, because you and I have talked about my claim I had about 15 years ago that my homeowner's insurance offered me $35,000. They had a great one because I had no idea what anything was worth. So I was a perfect target for them. And a friend of mine said, you need to get a public adjuster. And I did. And I know this is not like this for everybody, Robert, but I got $136,000 for a claim that they offered me $35,000. I know that doesn't happen. I don't know if it happens a lot or not, and I know every claim is different, but what are some of the average claims that you've worked on over the years, what the insurance company was offering versus what you got them in the end?
Whether I'm involved day one or when somebody calls me 2 or 3 months into it. I've been doing this long enough to be able to make some very good deductions about how the claim is being handled. Most of the time, the insurance company undervalues the damage by 50%.
Wow.
I'm waiting for a gentleman right now. It's going to hire me. I went and I knew that he was eventually going to have problems, but I didn't wait. I went and looked at it. The insurance company has valued it at about $300,000. It's probably closer to $550 before you even get to a place where you're going to negotiate a settlement. But he's got to put it together, and he's either doing it by himself, or he's doing it with a contractor, or he's waiting for the insurance company to do it. And what's the motivation for them to do it? They're more motivated to find a contractor that can do it for that $300,000 estimate, or maybe even two that can do it for that amount of money. And that's where it gets a little dicey, because what the adjuster from the insurance company will say is, look, we came up with a preliminary number. We didn't say we wouldn't pay you more, but then you hitch your wagon to a builder. There might be a couple of supplements, but the insurance company is banking on being able to control what that budget is, rather than pay and allocate cost up front. So they say, well, we'll work with you to identify what's missing from that estimate. And, there might be changes, but there are changes that will occur over time. And all of a sudden, where you would hope to be back in your house in 6 months, you're looking at a year, because you never had a firm cost of repair and you chose to deal with it yourself, or you hitched your wagon and you got married with the builder because they promised you that they would get you a settlement. And that's a little misleading too, because builders are not adjusters. In the insurance company's position, if they have a number and a contractor that can do it for half what the claim might be worth, that's all they're paying.
I have to share this with you. I didn't know what part of the show I was going to put it into. There is a company that contacted us, a very big company, because I see them in every city. Their agency contacted us, listened to your show. And normally, Robert, when they call up and they like a show for themselves, they're usually putting our expert down and that they're better at it than our expert. But this one said, I got to tell you, your expert is very good at the information he's offering. And though we can't get the show, I want to compliment you on the people you choose to represent your show. And I thought that was an incredible compliment to you.
It's flattering. I appreciate it. It's hard for me. I've been doing this for such a long time. I've learned to be less invested in my next business opportunity and more invested in the education that I think I can give somebody, whether they hire me or somebody else. Probably better that they get a sense that there's a broad array of professionals, some maybe perhaps better able to communicate concepts than others. And I encourage people to learn as much as they can, so that they have not one option to choose, but maybe several. Because in many cases, depending on the situation, I will tell someone, you might be better off approaching it differently. A young homeowner that has a claim it's already 6 months old, they're living in a damaged home. They might be living in a partially damaged home, and the insurance company is unwilling to pay to have them rent another place. I don't want to be the reason the claim drags out. So I give them options to resolve the claim or to challenge the insurance company in another manner, so that they're not out of their house for another 6 to 8 months. So I base my judgment on a number of variables, not just what the claim is worth, but what are their immediate needs.
A lot of people
how can I really help them?
A lot of people are saying how much they appreciate your honesty. That's great. What advice, Robert, would you give people before ever filing a claim?
And that's a great question in this market, in this day and age, because most people are thinking twice about filing claims, and because they don't want to get dropped by their insurance company, but
Right.
they don't really know what they're dealing with either. You can notify your agent, and you can have a placeholder for you can go ahead and report the claim without necessarily setting the wheels in motion for the insurance company to target you as a claimant that may be up for renewal in 6 months to a year, and then you're finding out that you got the extra problem having to find new insurance. You could tell the agent, especially if it's a conscientious agent, I want to find out what my damages are before I file this claim, but I want the insurance company to know. And I know that reporting claims in a timely manner is important. Until I figure out whether or not I want to follow through with the claim, I want to continue to ask questions. If the insurance company knows that you're filing it just to notify them that you might have a viable claim you want to report and to pursue coverage for, it's probably better that you do it than not, because if you wait 3 to 5 months and you're dealing with a lot of unforeseen damages that you didn't report in a timely manner, they might say, well, we had the opportunity to work with you and investigate this. You made the claim so late, we're not going to honor it.
What is the worst thing a consumer can do after they have a loss, Robert?
Start tearing the place apart and trying to fix it themselves so they can save money. And ultimately, I'm sorry. And ultimately they're removing some of the evidence of damage, and they are creating another hazard for themselves, because unless you document the loss immediately after it happens, what happens to the evidence? Is it disturbed? If you had a microwave oven that caught fire and you set it aside, and you're dealing with, in the aftermath of that small fire loss, you're dealing with your own damages, and the evidence, the microwave disappears, or you made the mistake of throwing it out. Now the evidence is gone. And if the insurance company was going to honor the claim, they might also want to find out if that item had a warranty, and they would want the receipt for when you purchased it, because the insurance company might pay you for your damages, but they might also go after the manufacturer under their liability policy. So disturbing evidence and not making the claim is a problem in and of itself.
Plus, I would think they're also under duress, and it's kind of hard to make a solid decision after like a major loss.
It is hard. People are upset, and the people who are indecisive complicate their lives too, because they get distracted. The drama of having had a fire or dealing with an insurance company, they end up talking to a half a dozen people, and they get swept up in the whirlwind of the discussion, and they never get around to making a decision on, well, do I need help or not? And if so, who am I going to use? Because that happened on a claim that I'm currently involved in. My client's neighbor was a former State Farm agent who decided that she was going to advise the client, chased everybody away.
Wow.
And me too. And all I had was about 60 seconds to ask her. I said, I have to say, and I hope you'll take this for what it's worth, I think you're making a mistake not having Mrs. So-and-so hear what I have to say. And she's full of attitude. She knows better. She knew better. 8 months later, the client calls me. Nothing happened. Little happened. And that person who asserted themselves as a do-gooder, chasing away public adjusters because she didn't like the fact that we come at such a bad time. She made it her responsibility to look after this client. My goodness, what a mistake that was. And my client knows it. And in many ways, where it's a claim that was valued at $320,000. It's $1 million damage to a big, beautiful home in the Oakland Hills. That's a dramatic example of letting other people make decisions for you. And unfortunately, that happens a lot in our lives because decision-making is not for the faint of heart. And in a situation where you're dealing with a lot of contentiousness and people are coming at you from all different angles, you should hire me. No, you should hire me. Don't hire them. You don't need them. People need to be invested in being good decision makers. And the stewards of good decision making are probably the people that are maybe not trying to strong arm you into making a decision, but letting you know what your options are and being willing to guide them before ever putting a contract in their hands.
You know, I've been reading a lot in California where I guess call them scam artists have gotten paid for the work, but never showed up to do the work. Do you hear much of that?
Yeah, it's called signing a work authorization, like you've earned the right to help somebody dry out their home or even rebuild their home. And it turns out that they tapped into the insurance money pipeline and they are getting paid for something. But because the adjusters for the insurance company were not doing their due diligence, the poor homeowner got stuck with someone that sold them a bill of goods, and the work is not being done.
Here's somebody wants to know, I hired a public adjuster after listening to your show. Am I allowed to fire them so I can hire you? That's nice.
Well, I won't. If somebody's in contract with another public adjuster, I won't talk to them unless that, I always have to make sure I ask them that question. If you're engaged in with a current public adjuster, rather than talk to somebody else about getting rid of that person, you should talk to the public adjuster that's representing you and discuss where you're at in the process to make sure you are you're clear on what they're doing and maybe what they're not doing that would allow you to ask them to rescind their agreement or to voluntarily resign. Public adjusters that are talking to other people who already have engaged a PA, for me, that's a no-no, because I wouldn't want that to be I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of a client that I've been working with for the last 6 months, only to find out for whatever reason, they're talking to somebody else.
Robert, are you seeing AI getting their hands in your business or working with the insurance companies?
I'm seeing AI looking to sell all of us on the benefits of using that technology to streamline the claim process. And so is the insurance company. AI is here. It's not going anywhere. But some of the technologies that we employ or we subscribe to are proprietary. And AI may also have the net effect of diluting the information pool. My own consultant who I use and hire and pay good money to evaluate the damage, there's software to input information that goes into the creation of an estimate. AI may actually streamline that process, But as it relates to the insurance industry, if you look at what the AI technology is doing, it's actually skewed in favor of the way insurance companies like to do business. So it has the net effect of adding an undue influence that's favorable to the insurance company.
What about, do you have any advice for people who've just been notified in the last 30 days that their insurance company is not renewing their policy?
And they can enter into a dialogue with their agent to find out why. I don't believe that the insurance companies need a reason to drop you, but you can try to appeal that decision, especially if it's going to create a financial hardship for you. And you could ask them to extend the policy for a reasonable period of time until they find a comparative substitute for the insurance that they have.
Well, I got to tell, first of all, I want to thank our TikTok audience. We started the show off with almost 1,000 likes. We are now over 7,000. Not a bad for a 50-minute show, but tell people, and folks, write this number down. You never know when you're going to have an emergency and you're going to go, why didn't I write that company's name down? Give everybody how they can reach you, Robert.
The name of the firm is Crown Adjusting. Our website is www.crownadjusting.com, and you can reach me at robert@crownadjusting.com. My number here in California is 415-999-5519. I do pick up the phone. I'm not using AI to aggregate information about people that might need me. But if that were the case, I would probably be referring people to other people. And you can start locally where you are to find out about our industry. You can go to the National Association of Public Insurance Adjusters. There are chapters that have other groups, like they're in California. There's the Pacific Coast Association of Public Insurance Adjusters. It's called PCAPIA. Pacific Coast Association of Public Insurance Adjusters, and just find out more about who's in your area. Look at their reviews. See if you can get on the phone with someone that's knowledgeable that will spend a few minutes with you. And if the first thing out of their mouth is how much they charge and what they need, it may not be the right person for you.
Well, we got a lot of people saying they appreciate your honesty and how you explain things. Robert's with us every month. He'll be back in with us next month. Robert, I love doing this show with you. I love the way you approach answering questions. And I just feel so comfortable that I don't have to worry about anything once I retain your company services.
Thank you. And I hope the people that are listening and watching the show are learning something in the process and are not afraid when they hear the word claim, mold, whether or not you have a significant loss or a partial loss. What do you have insurance for, if not to know that it's going to be there when you need it? So don't be afraid to talk to your insurance agent or someone in the business that is, we're all in business to help people. And if you get on the phone with somebody that you feel like they're talking to you like they're doing you a favor, it's not the person to continue to talk to.
Robert, thanks so much. Robert Crown Adjusting. He'll be back again with us next month. Thank you for all the people on TikTok that liked the show. I appreciate it. See you next month, Robert.
See you. Thank you very much, Stephen. Be well.
You too. Love you, bro.
Talk to you soon.
That's Robert Crown Adjusting. Folks, I hope you wrote his number down. You never know when you're going to have an emergency. Don't try to handle it yourself. Hey, that's going to do it for us today. We'll be back in tomorrow with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.